All right, so we're gonna talk about like media queries today. Okay, so basically a CSS artifact to be able to make certain CSS rules apply in some context. Okay, so I'm gonna start by just creating a regular HTML file, right? Doc type HTML, have HTML tag, and then in there head, and I put title. Nah, up to you. And then after the head, so we have body, right? And all I'm gonna have for now is just a little H1 in here that says media queries are what makes RWD possible. Who knows what RWD is? RWD, rear wheel drive, right? Responsive web design. So RWD, responsive web design. Who knows what that is? Yeah. But what's responsive web design? No. What is it, Kathy? Right. It responds to the device that it's in. It's not that it's gonna respond. When you say something, it's gonna curse back at you. But it responds to the sites that it's in. So if we look at like our own website, even though I mean, kind of could use an update, right? It is responsive, so it's doing that right. So if we check this out right here, we have this area here is 2 columns, right? And if we were looking at it on a phone on a small device, now it's 1 column. You see? So it responds to the size of the device. That's what responsive web design means. Okay, so close that, and I'm gonna demonstrate media query for you guys. So let me preview this. Was it? I don't think so. You were sending AJAX requests to the Wikipedia API, and that you had to do, but I don't think that it involved media queries. And then this page right here, the W3 schools, as always, they do a great job of introducing you to things. So let's pull up the W3 schools page on media queries. And this is basically the syntax is down here. Where are you? Yeah, like this. So you say at media, right? And basically at media, then media type and media feature. There's that's pretty much it. So at media, then media type and media feature, and then you have those braces. The CSS rules that are inside those braces are only going to apply to that media type and the media feature. Yes. It doesn't matter what. No, CSS never goes in the body, but you can put it in a style tag in the header or in a separate file on its own. Right? It's just regular CSS. It's like another thing that we're learning about CSS, right? So wherever you have your CSS regularly, like style.css or in between style tags, we're gonna do it for the simple demonstration. We're gonna do it in between style tags. That's where you put it. So the CSS rule, like the media features that we were talking about, look, you have aspect ratio, color index. Like the ones that you're gonna use the most is minimum width and maximum width. So max width right here and min width. Okay. So sometimes you want CSS to only apply to devices larger than a certain size. That's when you put minimum width. And sometimes you want certain CSS to only apply to devices, up to a certain size. So small devices. That's when you use max width. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to say media in our CSS rule. We're going to say at media screen and max width. Let's say 768 pixels. And 768 pixels is customarily what you consider a small device, a cell phone, right? As a cell phone being held in portrait mode, that 768 works for most of them. But in general, like when you want to do good responsive design, you have to not go by standards. Just test your thing in as many devices as possible, and manually add as many media queries as you need to make that page work correctly in every device. That's what it's gonna. That's gonna be the name of the game. Well, you could do that with JavaScript, right? So sometimes you could say, hey, in the JavaScript in your load event, you could say, hey, depending on the screen size, then this element is going to be 80% of the screen size and 75% of the height of the screen and stuff like that. You could do that with JavaScript, but not with CSS. Okay? CSS, you're going to have to put like rules and rules and rules, manually do it, and pretty much like any device that where your page looks buggy, you're gonna have to add some media queries. Maybe, and the easiest fix usually, what I like to do, short way out, easy way out, just remove elements. If your page looks bad in a device that's like width between like 900 and 1,000, and removing one picture makes it look good, just remove that freaking picture. That's the easiest way. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say for H1s, so only on devices, small devices, right? Max width 768, and only when the media is screen, we're gonna do H1. It's gonna be color red. Okay, so only on small devices, my font is gonna be red. And if I do this now, let's bring this up. Let's shrink it. There it is. You see? So it gets red when the device is small and black when the device is larger. And you can, resize your screen to kind of get an idea of what a smaller device would act like. Not a very good idea though. How you do get a better idea is that you bring up developer tools by hitting F12, or I think it's Command Shift something, Command Shift I, Command Shift J if you're on Apple. Not that anybody is. But you click on this little cell phone icon right here. Okay, this little cell phone icon towards the top left of your developer tools. And that allows you, that brings out like a mobile emulation thing, and you can pick a bunch of different devices here. So let's pick Samsung Galaxy S4 because we want to live 3 years ago, and then reload, and then that's going to show me what the page looks like on a Samsung Galaxy S4. And usually they're pretty good. They're pretty good at emulating. Apple iPhone 6, 6 Plus, you have a bunch. Google Nexus 6, BlackBerry. Now we're really going to the past. Here we go. BlackBerry Z30. Yeah, they're still out there. There you go. So maybe it hasn't changed the red in this phone display. Maybe our media query is too small. So let's do that. Let's fix it so that it works. It gets red on all phones. So go back here. Max width 768. Let's do max width 900. Yeah. Well, the start, like tablets are considered to kind of start at 900. Depends on the tablet too. Like there's 7-inch tablets. There's a bunch of stuff. That's why I said that you kind of have to just test it on as many devices as possible and make it work. It's not working there. I don't think it's rendering the media query properly here. But anyway, I mean the real fire, bulletproof test is testing it on the actual device. This thing it's not perfect. So what's the other commonly used type of media that we see? You ever go order something online and then you want to print a receipt and it looks like a piece of crap because it's just printing like a sidebar and a banner and all that stuff? Well, we have print media too. So whenever we're printing, we can create printer-friendly layouts, and usually it's as simple as just saying creating a media query for print. So media print, and and in here just saying like you have, let's say that your nav bar is in a nav element. You can say nav display none, and then let's say that you have a class called sidebar. So you can say sidebar class sidebar display none, and that's it. Now your navigation bar and your sidebar are going to hide whenever the media is print. And I'm going to demonstrate it to you. I'm going to put a nav here, little nav element in here, and let me just say ul. Actually, just span span menu item one. And I'm going to copy that a bunch of times. 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So if I preview this now, I have my menu items there, right? So it's like obviously this is not a real navigation bar, but this is just for the purpose of demonstration, and I still can see it, right? Now if I let me create the other one, the sidebar. So after the nav, I can have a div class sidebar, and then just like whatever home. Inside there I could have a list, blog article one. I'm just copy that and have 5 of those. And I'm gonna actually style the sidebar, a regular style for the sidebar. Right, that's gonna say float left and width 25%. And let's see what that looks like now. There we go. So now I have my sidebar here. Actually, I'm gonna give it a background color too. Background color RGB, say 200, light gray. There we go. So I have my sidebar, I have my awesome looking navigation bar, and then I have the title up here, right? So if I go to print this, Control P, check it out. I'm printing. There's no sidebar, no nav. Why? Because of this media query. Saying media, when there's print, nav bar has display none and the sidebar has display none, right? So if I take this out, let me take this out real quick and save, get out of here, refresh, try to print again. Now, when I print, I have my navigation bar and my sidebar there, okay? So that is how you make printer-friendly layouts, just by pretty much taking out all the junk that you don't want to print with a media query for media print. Um, another thing that you can do, if let's say that obviously this is not a great way to organize code, right? If you're going to have a real production website, you're not going to have all your styles in a header of one HTML file, because a real production website would have multiple HTML files. 9 times out of 10 it would. And then you would want a CSS file that you can embed into all of them, right? You don't want to copy and paste the CSS into all your HTML files, right? So what we can do in there is we have all of this stuff in a regular style CSS file, and we can have the print stuff in a style sheet that we can call with media equals print. So let me show you an example of that. If you want to reference a style sheet that only applies to print, you do this: link relationship style sheet media equals print. Okay, and that means that all the styles in that style sheet, they don't even need a media query. They're only going to apply to printed media. So let's see that in action. I'm going to create a new file, print media.css, and in there I'm just going to bring, that's not it, just going to bring this stuff over, media.css. Here we go. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to have, after this style, I'm going to have a link relationship style sheet. media, print, href, print media.css. And if we refresh here, no change, right? Because that style sheet only applies to print. So now when I go to print, it should, even though I never really do this, it should work. Let's see, there we go. Okay. So all the styles in that style sheet only apply when you print. So if we go to print media CSS, we say that, H1s have, I don't know, font, family, the super awesome Comic Sans. And refresh. If I go to print, there we go. It changed the font. See? So any style that's linked like this, media equals print, is only going to apply, when you're printing the page. So let's see some more detail on those media features. We talked about the media features as well as like the min width, max width, aspect ratio, stuff like that. So again, W3 Schools, real good introduction to the media queries. But if you want more detail on the media features, you can go to the Mozilla Developer Network. And there's a bunch of other examples here, right? You can have those rules like this one. You can have them in media equals like that in the link to the style sheet as well. And there's logical operations that are a little confusing, especially the not, because when you put not, it applies to everything after. So I kind of like to stay away from it. And so let's see some examples. Look, aspect ratio is a good one. You can have min aspect ratio of 1:1. So if the aspect ratio is, and this is width to height. So if the aspect ratio is more than 1:1, it means that it's like a wider screen, right? It's a widescreen device. So that's kind of how you can have CSS styles. If any CSS styles that you have here apply to landscape phones and regular computer monitors, right? They don't apply to portrait phones because the aspect ratio in a portrait phone is lower than 1:1. You can do device aspect ratio too, so that doesn't depend on how you're holding the device or whatever. You can have, if it's 16:9, if it's a 16:9 or 16:10 device, you can do, those very like 16:10, very widescreen devices. Maybe you want extra padding on the sides.
What type of media query can you use on a computer screen when you're making the screen smaller so it doesn't already start to like level out the structure of the page, so it doesn't start destroying it?
What depends. I mean, depends on what you're doing. Like, if depends on what exactly you want to happen.
Okay. I want everything to start stacking up on the top of each other, but I don't want the scrolling bar at the bottom. I want everything to be showing on one page.
Right. Yeah, you don't want stuff to show side. To show you don't want the user to be scrolling sideways because that's horrible, right?
Yeah.
What you want to do in that case, we're actually going to build our own kind of like grid system, like Bootstrap, right? So that's one thing that we're going to start doing today. Short answer, what you can do is just use something like Bootstrap, like the shortest way. Just use something like Bootstrap, and you have your two different, classes for the width of the column. So you have, for small devices, an extra small device, or extra call access 6, or I mean call access 12, right? And then call MD 6. So that means if it's a 2-column layout, when it's a small device, it's going to be stacked on top of each other. That doesn't matter. Like if you shrink a browser window, it acts just like it's a small device. It's pretty much the same. Okay. Yeah, sometimes a very large device, like if you design your page with a normal computer monitor in mind, you might write a paragraph, right? And it looks like a paragraph on your computer, but sometimes somebody has like a 16 by 12 or like a massive widescreen, one of those. I don't know what the aspect ratio is, like 24 by 10 or something, right? And it just looks like one line. And it looked like a paragraph in your computer. It just looks like one little line that doesn't even call attention in a super widescreen monitor. Right. Look, you can even do media query to detect, if the orientation is portrait or landscape. Resolution, you do it by DPI or device pixels. Those are the most important. Min width, max width. Yeah, those are pretty much the most important ones. But again, you can always, check the Mozilla Developer Network for more details there. And so now let's start building that grid. So basically what we're going to do now is build a grid that works similar to the one in Materialize and Bootstrap, right? So we're going to build a system for us to have all these style classes that are going to make our content be able to align to the device size. So first thing we got to do, let's create a new, CSS file, grid.css. Let me see if I remember this. Okay. So let's start with the row, right? Remember, we always need a row, and then we need our columns. So let's not put anything in the row right now. And now let's put for columns, let's just call it C. Okay, so C. For those, we're gonna have float left. Okay. Um, now, we need all the different widths, right? So let's start with the extra small devices. So extra small 1. Extra small 1 is with what? You want it to be 1 out of 12 columns, right? So width is, let's calculate it real quick. 100 divided by 12 is 8.333. So actually, let's add one more thing here. Box sizing, border box, so that it counts the border in the box sizing. And then in here, we're going to say width 8.333%. Okay. Now, XS2 is what? Twice that, right? So 12 divided by 2, that's 100 divided by 6, 16.667. So width 16.667%, right? Now, class XS3 is what? 3 columns, right? So what's the percent, the width percent? No, 3 columns out of 12. What proportion is 3 out of 12? Come on, guys. 25%. 25%. 3 out of 12 is 1/4. And XS4, say width, that's 33%. 4 out of 12, 1/3, 3%. XS5 width, so let's do 100 divided by 12 equals that times 5, 41.666. 6%, right? XS6 with 50%, right? 50%, because 6 out of 12 is half. And by the way, we're assuming that we all know what we're talking about when we talk about that 12 column convention. That's just the convention. Like if you wanted to, you could very well make your own grid system that worked on 10 columns instead of 12, right? But then nobody would understand it. Excess 7 width is so 7, so 100 divided by 12 times 7, 58.333%. Excess 8. So 8 out of 12 is what? 2/3. So width 66.666%. Excess 9. Width 9 out of 12 is what? 3/4, 75%. Excess 10 is width 100 divided by 12 times, oh, so 83.333. So yeah, 83.333%. Excess 11 width, so 100 divided by 12 times 11, 91.666%. Excess 12 width 100%. Okay, and now well, we'll get to that later. Now let's make a page that includes this in grid.css. So new file, grid test.html, and I'm just going to copy test.css and body HTML. And here I'm going to say div class row. Inside the rows, I'm going to have columns like always. Div class call, actually call them C, right? I call my column C. And then the sizes, it's XS3. Test, so size XS3. Column size 3. And then another one, XS5, column size 5. And then another one, column size 5 again. So what do you think? How do you think this is going to display? How should this display? Well, first of all, I got to insert the link. Sheet, graph, grid.css. So how do you think this is going to display? Yeah, the last one should bump down to the next one, right? If we did it correctly, if we did that CSS correctly. Let's see. How did I do here? I missed this. There. So it wraps to the end. Let's add some background color. So let's say style. Let's say that row div. So any div that's inside a row, let's say background color RGB 100 to 100. So we can tell what's going on. You see? So we have our column size 3 right here. Actually, let's give it a border too. Border 1 pixel solid. So now we have our first div here, our second div there, and then the next one wraps around. What if I change this to 4? Now they all fit. You see, now they all fit together. So we have, like the beginnings of our grid system, but it's not responsive. You see, it just shrinks down, right? So what do? We need some media queries, right? So in our grid.css, we're gonna say that media screen and min width 900. And we're gonna have all these styles in here. Let's do MD1. MD1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. MD2, MD3, MD4, MD5, MD6, MD7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're gonna say width, semicolon. I'm gonna just copy and paste that over and over. And now I'm gonna specify the percentage. So for actually, you know what? It's gonna be the same exact thing as all these. So 0.333%. It's gonna bring the percentages down. And it's 16. And it's 25. Then 33%. Then 41. 50. 58. 66. 75. Just bringing them all one by one. And 100%. Okay, so now how do I structure this so that my website is responsive, right? I gotta go back and change those styles, right? I don't want, if I want them to stack, and this gets back to your question, Julian, if I want them to stack on a small screen, right, I would put that they all take 12 columns on a small screen, but on a larger screen, they take the maybe 3, MD3, and MD3. Okay, so now let's see what that looks like. What did we do here? That's wrong. Oh, I forgot the PX. 100 PX. So now, if we test this, should work, unless I made some, there we go. Wait a second. Oh yeah, 4, 4, 4. It's gonna be split evenly, 3 columns, there we go, right? Column size 3, column size, let me change those sizes. Column size 4, 4, and 4. They're all evenly sized, right? Split 33%. And now what happens if I shrink the page? Once I go below 900 pixels, boom, they're stacking. You see? No, that's what you wanted though. Like, as you wanted them to stack, and what's happening, right? That rule that says that the rule that defines the behavior for MD4 is set so that it only exists on larger than medium screens. You see? There you go. And the order in which we apply the rule matters. So we're saying first, hey, apply this rule which says with 100%. But if the screen is big, this rule comes after. That's why it takes precedence over this one. So it says, no, never mind. No, don't do that. Right? The screen is big, so we're applying this rule that comes after. Now, what does this rule say? Well, MD4 says width is 33%. Okay? So that's basically what's happening. But when we shrink the screen, right, these rules pretty much like stop existing. So we see div class C and then XS12, oh, with 100%, and this doesn't do anything on a smaller screen. So that's where we stay with 100%. And that's why we get this behavior. Okay? And later on, like if you wanted to define, this is the medium, if we wanted to define a large class, what would you do?
You'll have to lower pixels, right?
Yeah, right. So go with pretty much do the exact same thing right here, but with a for larger screens. So let's say greater than 1080 in width, right? Or 1024, greater than 1024. we're going to say, but instead of MD, let's just do LG. And now we can define three behaviors. So we can say that for large screens, let's say that this guy is going to take up just 3, LG3, LG3, okay? And we can also go back here and we can just specify real quick an offset, right? LG off 1 and let's say margin left is going to be 8.333%. And we can add that class to the first one too. So we can add this LG off 1 for offset, 1 column offset. Let's add it to this one. And let's see what that looks like. You see, in a large screen, we have offset 1. So we have 1 padding here. And we have, 3 columns, 3 columns, 3 columns. So we're up to 10. We have 2 columns on this side, right? Now if we go to a medium screen, see where this registers as medium. There. That's registering as medium. So we have just 4 columns, 4 columns, 4 columns. And if we go a little bit smaller, they stack. So we have 3 behaviors now. Stacking, just 3 columns, and 3 columns with padding. Okay? So that's pretty much, the gist of media queries. I know it's a lot to take in, but with practice, they become simple. The basics, all the basics that you need to remember. Hey, if I want to fix how something looks on a specific, like, smaller device that I didn't design my page for, use a media query to insert some CSS that only applies for that device size. Okay, because it's likely that if your page looks messed up on a cell phone, on a Samsung Galaxy S3, it's also going to look messed up on an iPhone, and also going to look messed up on a bunch of phones that are similar size. So you just go insert a media query based on the size and fix it. Maybe shrink an image, maybe delete an element, display none an element, anything that you need to do. One more thing I forgot. If we're going to have multiple rows, this is going to mess up. Okay, we're going to have these floats that are going to be interfering with one another. It's going to be a nightmare, and that's why we need the pseudo class, the row after, and that's where we put content, nothing. We put display block, and we put clear both. Okay, clear both is what gets rid of the float left, and these two are just something that you need to put in order for pseudo selectors to work, which is crazy. You would figure that they would just make it so that pseudo selectors automatically apply this, but they don't. So in order for pseudo selectors to work, and what does this say? So let's go check this out. Let's go check this out on the live preview. Inspect. So we look at this is our row, right? And now look after, there's an element there that has style. Okay. So basically row after just inserts at the very end of the element, you're going to put some stuff in there. And what are you putting? Clearing the floats. Okay, so that the next row can reset its behavior and the floats from the previous row don't interfere with the next row. So you're really doing. So we can have multiple rows. Let's see, so it's 3, 3. And notice also that if I don't specify a large style, right? Large styles are kind of like a subset of medium styles because medium styles apply whenever the width is greater than 900. And large styles, apply when the width is greater than 1024, but 1024 is also greater than 900. So if I don't specify a large style, this one's going to apply for large screens. And anyway, let's see what this looks like. So we have one row there, and everything's working great. It's not interfering with the next row. It's lining up exactly as we expect it to, and that's what we need. Okay.